All right, I'm recording this. And we'll talk about the plan and kind of long range plans and all that. Okay, so let me get this up so this helps me keep myself straight. All right, so the tests are graded. They're in the book. High score was perfect paper. There's a couple of them shooting around. 6 points were added to it, roughly. If your score was less than 50%, I'm concerned about you, okay? If you didn't take the test, I'm extra concerned about me because you didn't email me or anything. I've got a few of you more in the other class that just didn't take the test. I don't know if they're just planning on dropping and they don't care, or but I'm just wondering what's going on. Because if you're planning on not dropping and you didn't take the test, I mean, it's time to figure out, email me like now. All right, so if your score was less than 50%, I am concerned about you. What I did for this test was I took problems from the final and I changed the numbers. So you will see these problems again with different numbers on your final exam. So therefore, you need to get these down if you did not have them, all right? Wide variety in scores. There were really good ones and there were not so good ones, all right? Huge, huge deviation. So if you got less than a 50, here's my suggestions, all right? Come see me in office hours, 3 to 4, Monday, Wednesday, okay? I get really bored. I'm sitting here in Zoom by myself. If you don't understand something, it's time to get it down, all right? You can't just sit on it and sit on it and sit on it and hope you'll get it because it's not going to work. Be sure you're doing the review for the test. There's nothing on the test that wasn't on the review, okay? When you study, well, a couple things. Couple things I noticed. First thing was the average time to take it was 21 questions. The average time to take it was 20 minutes. So some of you guys took about an hour and some of you guys took 20 minutes or less. And the 20 minutes is not a good window. If you're working a test like this where I give you 90 minutes, you should be going back and checking over your work and your answers, right? And check what you submitted. So those are some things that you should definitely do. Go back over the test. If you don't understand something, come talk to me, all right? And get it down because it's going to be on the next test. It's going to be on the final. In terms of what you're doing and when you study, I mean, one thing I noticed, you guys look really good today. I can see 80% of your faces. It's the other 20% I'm a little worried about. All right, when I can't see your face on Zoom and I see a ceiling fan, I see somebody driving in a car, walking around, it's really hard to pay attention when you are not even looking at you're not looking at your computer screen. When you're like, I see kids driving sometimes during class, which I think is really dangerous, but you can't pay attention while you're driving a car. You can't pay attention while your boyfriend's sitting on the couch next to you. I mean, I know I've been there, I've done it. All right, my husband and I dated in college. It wasn't a good idea if I needed to study to have him with me. And he was so smart, he never needed to study, but I needed to study. All right, but what I'm going to tell you guys is, so make sure you're in a good environment where you can focus, because this is time where you have to learn and ask questions and participate, and you should use that time, all right? The videos, you should be watching the videos, right? Half the class is online, so if you're not watching those videos, you're missing half the class, okay? I can see the Zoom counter, or not the Zoom counter, the YouTube counter, and about half ER, or the other half ER, I don't know, all right? So make sure that you're doing that. I mean, you don't want to get a score less than 50 on the next test. If you got a score less than 50 on this test, you just don't want to repeat that. And like I said, please come see me, get help, do whatever you need to do, but do it, right? You can't let it ride. I mean, I know what high school's like. I taught high school for 18 years, and you can let it ride and let it ride and let it ride, and you end up magically with a B, all right? That's because the high schools have to pass you, all right? They have to. There's all these things that happen in the background that you're unaware of. But anyways, so those are some suggestions that I have for you. Make sure when you're doing the homework, if you don't understand something, ask me, all right? I mean, honestly. All right, so there's no extra credit for the test. I mean, the test is a test. There is another test, though. The next test, I'm going to give you from the 25th to the 30th to take it. Now, the reason I'm doing that, it's not this week, it's next week, is because Thanksgiving falls in there. So that makes it awkward for me. The 25th is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and the 30th is the Monday after. Ideally, I really want you to take it on the 30th, but I'm giving you a window. If you're going somewhere and you're not going to be available, you'll have time to take the test. All right, that's why I'm doing that. It's just kind of really an awkward window. So exam 2 will be a little different than exam 1 because some of them are free response, like you fill in the numbers. And because of that, I'm giving you 2 chances on exam 2. So if you don't like your first grade, you can take it again. All right. So in that case, the grades tend to go up a little bit on exam 2 because I give you 2 chances. All right. So, but that'll come the 25th through the 30th. So not this week, but next week. All right. So my plan is, here's my plan. Okay. This week, we are covering 5.1 through 5.3. So all of chapter 5 and 10.2. Okay. 5.1 is asynchronous. The video is up there. We are going to cover 5.2 and 5.3 in class. All right. 10.2 is asynchronous. The video is up there. Now, what I did with the homework, because we really the only chapter we have after 5 is chapter 10, and that's it. So we don't have that much left. So what I did was I spaced out the homework a little bit. I made 5, 1, 2, and 3 due this Sunday at midnight with a quiz over chapter 5. That stuff is due Sunday at midnight. 10.2, I pushed back to the next Sunday with 10.3 because we only have one section. It just pushes it back a little bit. You need to do sections 10.2 and 10.3 next week before you take your test, okay? Because your test is up to 10.3, okay? So just be aware of that. I just pushed it back because 10.2 and 10.3 kind of go together. All right. 10.1 you might be asking me about. 10.1 is background material. There's no lecture. There's no homework over it. So you want to look at it, you can, but it's really not necessary. All right. So that's why there's nothing there. All right. So, all right. So this week, we got 5.1 through 5.3 and 10.2. Next week, we're going to cover 10.3. I'm going to put a video up there because my plan is Tuesday. We're going to review for our next test next Tuesday. All right. So I will be reviewing in class that Tuesday, and I want that live. All right. After Thanksgiving, don't come to class. All right. We're going to do it live through Zoom, our synchronous classes. All right. So I will be taking roll like I do when, when you guys show up. Just that I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be at my house. All right. So we'll have class all through Zoom after Thanksgiving. Okay. And she just sent me some kind of email about December 5th and 7th, which that's coming, but something's going on there. So anyway, so that's the plan. All right. So everybody clear about what's going on? Okay. Any questions about what's going on?
So on campus after Thanksgiving, right?
I'm sorry, what?
There's no on-campus classes after Thanksgiving?
Right. Do not come here on campus because I will not be here. Okay. After Thanksgiving, it is all live. All right. It's all Zoom. Not live, but it's all Zoom. Right. So your normal class times will remain your normal class times. You will just log in through Zoom like you're doing now, except I won't be here. I'll be at my house. Okay.
I have a question. When is our official set Thanksgiving break?
Okay, so the set break, as far as I know, is Thursday and Friday. Okay, so that's why I have the next test go through Monday, so that way I would prefer you wait till Monday to take that test, the 30th, but if you want to get a jump start because you're going to be gone somewhere or whatever, I'm giving you that option. All right. My suggestion would be not to take the test before Thanksgiving. Okay. That's my suggestion. All right. But
So our next exam is going to be due on Tuesday,
on Monday,
November 24th.
November 30th.
Okay. So that's our next exam. Okay. November 30th. Got it.
We just have this next test and then our final exam?
Yes. Your final, sometime in December. I haven't gotten that far ahead yet. It's December, whatever it says on there. We'll talk about that. Let's get through the next test, then we'll talk about the final. Okay, I'm just not ready to right yet. It's sometime, I think, in December 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th window, somewhere in there. I will post that. Okay, as soon as I figure it out. She just sent an email about it, and I'm like, okay. But I didn't really read it, or read all of it. Okay, so November 30th, that's when the next test is due. All right. November 30th is also the Q drop date. So another reason I did that was I wanted you to take that test before Q drop. All right. So that way you have that in there. Okay. All right. Is that okay? Everybody good with that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have we talked about the discussion forum yet?
Okay. Yeah. I'm putting a discussion up in 5.1. I haven't put it up there yet. I will do that tonight, tomorrow early. Okay.
Okay, so I remember, I think it was for 4.1, we had one as well, but I think there were problems with it.
Right.
I never participated in that one because I wasn't sure if it had got fixed or not.
It got fixed, but it got fixed late, so I threw it out. I didn't
Oh,
count it.
okay. Okay. Got it. So
It was my fault, so I threw it out.
got it.
But I know what I did wrong, so I won't do that in 5-1. I haven't posted it yet, but I will very shortly, okay? I was more worried about getting your test grades up in there. All right, are we good? Okay. All right, so we're gonna cover. Oh, I hate to ask this. What are you guys doing in our class right now? Finance.
We just,
Okay, so we're synced, okay? We're caught up. All right. So section 5.1 has to do with finance. There's a video online.
Wait.
Yeah,
we just got finished with the test on our syllabus. It says we have homework over 4.2 and 4.1 due Wednesday or tomorrow.
are you talking about for me?
No, ma'am, for her. Yes, ma'am.
I don't know why her syllabus says that. I mean, I'm not in charge of her syllabus. I can only tell you that, you know, I have to follow the schedule and I'm actually a little bit behind, but not terribly. But you need to ask her because I don't know, right? I'm not in charge of her class. Okay, for me, this week you have 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 homework due with quiz 4. Okay, send me a minute. All right. So hopefully you're doing finance. I love finance because it's so practical. I had an interesting week because my oldest son just bought his first house. He worked 6 days a week to actually save up enough money for the down payment. He just closed on it. We had some real fun with the financing because he didn't do an FHA. He did a, whatever it is, the first home loan. And we had some problems because grandma gave him some money for the down payment or a gift. And they require all kinds of stuff because she did that and she didn't want to provide it. And we thought he was going to lose the loan, but it went through at the last minute. So he's good. With a lot of stress, it went through. But one thing I'll tell you with these home loans is be aware of the rules. I had no idea that there was some rule that if somebody gives you money, they have to provide their bank statements to his bank. I'm like, why? So anyways, but it worked. My other son just found out that, you know, he just graduated college last year and he's buying his first car. And he went to get a loan and they denied him because he has no existing credit because he's never gotten a credit card. And so I will tell you guys, now is the time to start thinking about developing credit. We told him get a credit card. He says, why? I don't need it. I'm never in debt. I'm like, it's not about being in debt. It's about developing enough credit so the banks will give you a loan. So he's working on getting his first credit card because he can't get a car until he gets his first credit card. So I don't know, but so the finance is terribly, terribly practical. Your TI-80, your calculator has a finance app, and I'll be honest with you, I use that finance app. When I go get a car loan or a house loan and I want to know what my payments are, I use that app because you can't necessarily trust everything that is car dealerships. I mean, I've caught them charging me extra money and I say, what's that money for? And they go, oh, well, that's because we charged you for detailing. I'm like, well, I didn't ask you to detail it. So take that money off my loan. So I strongly suggest that when you actually finance things for real life, I mean, I really use the finance app on that calculator because you can't just trust that people are going to do what they say they're going to do. All right, so we're going to pull up, we're going to do section 5.2. So 5.1 is online with a video, as is 10.2. They're already online. All right, so we're gonna solve things using the quadratic formula. All right, now 5.1 is solving by factoring. That is always my first choice, that or the calculator, because honestly, the quadratic equation is so much work, and usually in math classes in 1325, everything's going to be factorable. So to me, this is kind of a waste of energy, but it's there, and they want me to teach it. So I'm going to teach it with this in mind, that this is never my first choice. All right. So the quadratic equation says that if you have something of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, I can find the roots of this or where it equals 0 through the following formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, the whole thing over 2a. Now, the downfall about the quadratic equation, if you're going to use it, you got to memorize it. And people struggle with plugging numbers in correctly from my years of Algebra 2 teaching. A couple hints I'll give you as we go through this, but Your Algebra 2 teachers teach you the song to memorize it? You know the song? Oh, I got some no's. Okay, so we're gonna have to sing it. Okay. There are actually two versions. There's Pop Goes the Weasel and there's One to Row, Row, Row Your Boat. I prefer Pop Goes the Weasel, so that's what I'm gonna sing for you. Okay. Yes, I'm gonna sing for you. Okay. So the way it goes like this. All right. X equals opposite B plus and minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. All right. So there's Pop Goes the Weasel. All right. So if you like, you can sing the song. All right. I still sing this. All right. I don't forget it. All right. So X equals opposite B plus and minus square root B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Okay. So there it is. I've got it. Okay. Hopefully you get it. All right. So how do we use it? Before I use it, I do want to talk about the section above talks about solving quadratics with factoring. Like I said, this would always be my first choice unless something's not factorable. Now I want you to watch the video, but I want you to notice that there's other ways to solve this equation. All right, first of all, it has to equal 0. If it doesn't equal 0, you have to make it equal 0. Use the quadratic. And we can solve this by factoring, and I'm going to solve it by factoring just to kind of give you an idea of how much easier it is to solve by factoring. All right, so you multiply the first and the last. So 3 times -8 is -24. Now we need factors of -24 that add to +10. We just took a test over this, right? So what are my factors? I think I heard it, but very quietly. What are the 2 factors I need?
12 and -2.
There you go, 12 and -2. Okay, so remember with the way that I factor, we copy the 3 to the front of each of them. Copy, so it's 3x and 3x. Write your factors down, plus 12, -2, right? So I copied, now I kill the common factor. So if I look at this first set, I can take out a 3, and this becomes x plus 4. And the other guy becomes no common factor, so he stays the same, right? So with factoring, all you have to do is once you factor, you set each factor to 0 and it gives you your answers. So either x plus 4 equals 0 or 3x minus 2 equals 0. All right, and now it's easy. I subtract 4 and I get x equals -4. This guy can move the negative over, it becomes positive. Divide by 3 and I get 2/3. So my answers are -4 and 2/3. So factoring is generally my first choice. It's easier than quadratic in my mind. Quadratic is a lot of plugging in, all right? So, but we're gonna go solve this equation. We're gonna solve it by plugging in, all right? So she's got the work. I'm gonna do it out here separately. So when I look at this equation, the number with the x squared is a, the number with the x is b, and the constant is c, all right? So I got a is 3, b is 10, and c is -8, okay? Don't forget to take the signs with, all right? So the quadratic equation says that x equals opposite b plus and minus the square root b squared minus 4ac, whole thing over 2a. All right, so now we're just plugging those numbers into this formula. All right, so -b, so a negative of a positive is negative, so it's -10. Plus or minus. Now, I like to do some of this in my head. The b squared is where people mess up all the time. The b squared is positive, so if I square a negative, it's going to be positive. If I square a positive, it's going to be positive, whatever. So 10 squared is 100. I just do it right here in my head. All right, a, 4ac, so 4 times a is 3, and c is -8. I'm dividing the whole thing by 2a, so 2 times 3 is 6, all right? So now I've got the numbers plugged in, all right? Once I plug in the numbers, simplify what's under the square root first. And if you like, you can use your calculator. So I'm going to do under the square root. It's 100 minus 4 times 3 times -8. And I end up with 196, all right? So that's 196. So it's -10 plus or minus the square root of 196 over 6, All right, and the nice thing about the square root of 196, it's a nice even number. I get 14. All right, so this is -10 plus or minus 14 over 6. So the plus or minus, what it does is it gives you two answers, right? So now we're going to split them up. So one of my answers is -10 plus 14 over 6. And the other one is -10 minus 14 over 6. So now I just need to simplify. All right, so -10 plus 14, that's going to be 4. And if I reduce that, I get 2/3. And this one is -24 over 6. And that works out to be -4. See how my answers are the same, right, as if I factored, just so now I use the quadratic. Okay. The quadratic equation will always work. Factoring doesn't always work, but the quadratic equation always works. It's just kind of longer, all right? So it's not my first choice. It's my last choice, really. Just to kind of remind you, the other option you have is to solve something with a calculator. You guys have the graphing calculators with you, so there's no reason not to use it. I just want to show you how to do that real quick so you can remind yourselves how to do it. So to solve with a graphing calculator, you're going to plug the left-hand side into y1. Clear this. So this is 3x squared plus 10x. Minus 8, and I want to know where that equals 0. So I press 0 and y2, and then I hit graph. And there's two places where the graph crosses the red line, the x-axis. So I can just go find those by hitting second, trace, and intersect number 5. And press enter 3 times. So I've got one root at 0.6666, which is your 2/3. And if I go find the other one, second cal 5, you have to move the cursor with the arrow key down to where it's closer to the other intersection. It finds whichever one it's closest to. So like there. Press enter 3 times and I get -4. All right. So you can solve these. We got factoring, graphing calculator, and quadratic equation. They all kind of do the same thing. All right. Quadratic equation is kind of always my last choice. Just because it's so long. All right. Are we okay with that? You guys okay online? Yeah, okay. All right, so we're going to solve with a quadratic, a couple of them. So in this case, A is 2, B is 3, and C is 1. Okay, going to write the equation down. Always write it down so don't forget it. -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so we start plugging stuff in. So -b is -3 plus or minus the square root. Okay, if I square 3, I get 9. Minus 4, a is 2, and c is 1. And divide by 2a, so 2 times 2 is 4. All right. So again, the first thing you want to do is work the stuff under the square root. See, what I see is 4 times 2 times 1, that's 8. So what I have is 9 minus 8, so that's 1. Okay. So I know what the square root of 1 is, it's 1. Okay. So now I can split it up. So I have one solution of -3 plus 1 over 4, one solution of -3 minus 1 over 4. And we just work it. -3 plus 1 is -2. Should end up with -0.5. And -3 minus 1 is -4 over 4, and that equals -1. Okay. You okay with this? Yes, no? Yeah? Okay. All right, so a couple things. If you're going to plug it in a calculator the whole way through, if you're not going to use the fraction bar, make sure you put parentheses around the top, and you don't really need the bottom, but around the top. All right, otherwise it won't work out for you. All right. So if I do this, do the next one, A is 3, B is -8, and C is 4. down the formula. All over 2a. So negative, the negative, b being negative is a problem for some people. Please be aware of the pitfalls here. I've taught Algebra 2 for 18 years. And when we talk about negative b, we have to change the sign. So a negative 8 becomes a positive 8. So make sure you change the sign always. And then when you square a negative 8, negative 8 times negative 8 is positive 64. On the calculator, the reason people get this wrong is they square negative 8 like so. They do negative 8 and then they type squared and they get negative 64, which is incorrect, all right? Because with the quadratic equation, we are taking the whole negative 8 and squaring it, which should be positive. So it's 64, all right? This b squared should always, this is always positive no matter what that first one is squared. All right, minus, then we do 4, a is 3 and c is 4. Right, 4ac all over 2a, 2 times 3 is 6. All right, so once I have them plugged in, I'm going to work with the square root first. So I'm going to work what's inside there. I'm going to do 64 minus 4 times 3 times 4. I get 16. That's a nice number. I get 8 plus or minus the square root of 16 over 6, like that. And the square root of 16 is 4. All right. So we either get 8 plus 4 over 6 or 8 minus 4 over 6. Those are my two solutions. This is 12 over 6, so I get 2. And this 8 minus 4 is 4 over 6, so I get 2/3. All right, so those will be the solutions, okay? So with a quadratic equation, you see you're just plugging numbers into it. It's not a big deal, but you gotta be careful, that's all, and it takes a little while. I don't suggest using the quadratic unless you absolutely have to, because heck, if I can factor, I'm gonna factor. All right, we good? Yeah, some of them are already asleep, okay. I didn't know I could put people to sleep as well, all right. Are we good? All right, so we're going to go up and talk about finance. So we're going to go up to section 5.2 in the notes. We're going to talk about loans and annuities today. In section 5.1, there's a video. I talk about simple interest. Let me find the page this thing's on. I love finance because it's super, super practical to real life. You guys will all be buying cars or houses, and, saving and all kinds of fun stuff. 5.1, I've done a video on. All right. And we're going to talk about 5.2 once I get there. Okay. 5.2 starts on page 56. So 5.1, they talk about simple interest. The simple interest, your app doesn't apply to simple interest. It just applies to compound interest. Honestly, nobody does a simple interest loan. What a simple interest loan is, I take a loan out, and at the end of the time I took the loan out, I pay like 6%. All right. Now, normally you don't just pay the interest at the end of the loan. You pay it off in installments. So compound interest is more realistic to what we do today. You know, most compounding is monthly, but okay. So we're going to talk about, we'll start with an annuity. Annuity is where it's just a savings account. That's what an annuity is. I'm paying money into an account to get money and getting interest. You know, I'm putting money away for Christmas, so I put $100 a month into a savings account. That's an annuity, it's just savings. And annuity is a sequence of payments I put into a bank at regular time intervals. All right, so we're going to look at how exactly they work with some compound interest. So we're going to read the problem. Gary plans to deposit $400 at the end of every week, into an account that earns interest at a rate of 6.25% compounded weekly. Okay. So let's talk about compound interest. When they say it's compounded weekly, what they're doing, there's 52 weeks in a year. So every week they're giving you 1/52 of the interest. All right. So the first week you'll get 1/52 of your interest. And then the second week you'll get you'll get 1/52nd of whatever's in your account, which might be a little bit more because you got interest, all right? So the more times they compound the interest, the better the interest rate up to a certain limit, okay? So, so this is the idea of compound interest, all right? So there's 52 weeks in a year. All right, so we're gonna put $400, he put $400 in, all right, in a week. All right, so the second installment, now I'm gonna get interest because they're compounding it weekly. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna take my balance and I multiply by the interest, but I'm only applying 1/52nd of the interest. So what I'm gonna do is take the interest rate as a decimal, and I'm gonna give you 1/52nd of the interest for the first week. And that would be the interest they put in there.
Miss Miller,
Yeah.
Mary Grace says that she's been trying to get into class since 3 o'clock and it won't let her in.
I have no idea. There's a recording, just tell her, yeah, I don't know why it's not letting her in. It's gotta get her in, so. Yeah, check her internet connection. Oh, no, she's coming in right now. Okay, she's coming in now.
Okay.
All right. Let me make note of it. All right, no, she's out. No, she's coming in and she's out. Okay. Don't know. All right, so I'm going to take the 400 times the interest rate, which is 0.0625, and then I'm going to divide it by 52. I'm only doing 1/52nd of it. So I'm going to get, around it, I'm going to get 48 cents interest on the first payment. All right, now what's going to happen is he's also going to put another $400 in there. So his ending balance is going to be 400 plus 400 plus 48 cents. Well, it's going to be 848 cents. So I'm going to add the balance plus what I put in plus the interest. So it's going to be $800.48. All right. And now I'm going to let it sit for another week, and they're going to give me interest on the third period. So what I'm going to do is take the balance to get the interest. You take what's in the account, which is $800.48. I'm going to multiply by the interest rate divided by 52. Let's figure out what the interest is. So now they're going to get 96 cents interest. Okay, so off that money, they get 96. He's going to put another 400 into the account. So we're going to take what we have in there, add the interest plus the other 400. So I get that, let's see, 800, what was in there? $800. And I better move it, 48 cents, whoops. Is what I had in there. I'm adding another $400. And I'm adding the interest, which is 96 cents. All right, I get 1201.44. All right, so that's what's in there right now. All right, so now we're going to do one more payment. So we're going to take what's in there. We're going to get the interest. So you do 1201.44 times the interest rate over 52. That'll be the interest. Hello, where's the calculator? Where's the calculator? Oh, let's open it. It closed on me. Yeah, SmartView's not happy. Let's try it again. Hold on, I got lost the calculator. Not sure what's going on. I'm gonna have to close it and restart it. There we go. All right, so get this up again. Let's get the calculator up. I should have pulled there. Okay. So I'm going to do the interest. So I'm going to do that times the interest rate. And I'm doing 1/52 of the interest. So I'm doing it every week. And I get $1.44 in interest. All right, and he puts another $400 in there. All right, so my ending balance would be $1201.44 plus his interest, which was $1.44, plus the $400 he just put in. So now he's got $1602.88. All right. So, and that's that. All right, and now we keep going like that forever. So how much money did the account have at the end of the fourth period? So the end of the fourth period, we have this, 1602.88. And what did he contribute himself? Well, this is what he contributes. So it's, if I add that all up, that's $1,600. Okay. And so what did he earn in interest? What he earned in interest was his ending balance minus what he contributed. So it's $1602.88 minus $1,600. So I only earned $2.88. I only invested it for 3-4 weeks, but I'll take it. All right, we good? All right, so that's an annuity. All right. Is that okay? You guys good out there? All right, understanding interest savings. All right, let's talk about interest. It says for 3 years, Rachel deposited $60 every week into an account to save money for a special vacation. At the end of 3 years, she had $12,000 in her account. How much of that was interest? So what I'm going to do is figure out how much she put into the account, and I can figure out what the interest is. So she put $60 every week. So there's 52 weeks in a year. So that's how much 60 times 52 would be how much she put in a year. And then we did that for 3 years. So that's how much money she put into the account. So let's get the calculator. And we'll do 60 times 52 times 3. All right, so she put $9,360 into the account. That's what she put in, but she had 12,000. So if I take the 12,000 minus what she put in, that's my interest. So if I take the 12,000 I ended with minus what I put in, that's the interest. So she earned $2,640 in interest. All right, which is a pretty good rate. I don't think you get that these days. All right, so the interest is basically the money I end up with minus the money I put in. All right, now we're going to flip it around. Loans are the practicality of this whole thing. You know, you guys are at a point in your life, if you haven't taken one out, you'll probably take a loan out to buy a car. You'll take a loan out to buy a house. You'll take a loan out to pay for college, okay? And so there's ways to go about it, and there's some things you need to know. And it never surprises me, like with Brett's house, I never knew that we had to go through all that for a gift, but all right, it says when you borrow money, it has to be paid back. Borrowing money from friends or family, you know, when you borrow from friends or family, you know, they might charge you interest, they may not, but it doesn't affect your credit. But when you borrow from a bank, credit union, you know, it affects your credit. Charges are going to they're going to charge you interest, all right, for taking out money. All right, so when you borrow money from a lending institution, it has to be paid back at regular intervals. Most of the time it's monthly. You know, you pay your mortgage payment once a month. You pay your credit card off once a month. With a set amount, you'll pay each time a payment's due until the debt's paid off, until the balance of your loan is zero. All right, so we're going to look at a debt thing. We'll talk about the TVM saver on TVM solver on Thursday. You guys are doing that. And Because I use the TVM solver. I honestly do. When I go take out a loan, I use it. All right. But we're going to do a couple by hand today, just to kind of get you an idea of what's going on here. All right. So Dawson borrows $5,100. He's going to repay it over 4 years with equal payments of $55 made bi-weekly. The interest rate on the loan is 5.8% compounded bi-weekly, charged on the unpaid balance. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is figure out how many bi-weeks there are in a year. So bi-weekly means every 2 weeks. So if there are 56 weeks in a year, if I divide that by 2, there's 26 bi-weeks, right? So he's going to make a total of 26 payments a year. All right, so he borrowed, the first thing he did was borrow $5,100. The bank is going to charge you interest on this right here, on whatever you owe them, you get charged interest on. So at first you're going to pay a lot of interest. As time goes on, your loan balance goes down and the interest that you pay becomes less and less. Hopefully we'll see that. So to find the interest, I'm going to take the balance of the loan, which is $5,100, times the interest rate. As a decimal, that's 0.058. Divided by the number of times per year that I make payments. So divided by 26. They're going to charge me 1/26 of the interest. So on my calculator, I take 5,100 times 0.058 divided by 26. All right, so I'm going to pay, rounding it off, $11.38 in interest. Okay, that's the interest I'm paying. Now, my payment they said was $55. That's not going to change. I make that every month. Now, what happens is of that 55, 1138 is interest. So the remainder is what's being applied to the debt. So if I do 55 minus 1138, I get $43.62. So $43.62 is going to be taken off what you owe them. So to get my balance on my loan, I do minus $43.62 from $5,100. I need a calculator. And I end up with $56.38. All right. So now my loan has gone down by that much. All right, now we're down to $50.56. So the next time, the next 2 weeks later, they're going to charge me interest not on $5,100, but what's on the balance. So it's $56.38. So I take the balance of the loan, which is $56.38, times the interest rate over 26 to get the next interest. So times, I forgot the interest rate, 0.058 over 26. So I get 1128. So now see what's happening is the interest that they're charging me is going down. The more that you pay off, less interest you pay. I'm still paying $55 a month. The amount applied to the debt, I just do the payment minus the interest. Put that up here. I get $43.72. So now I'm applying a little bit more money. I'm going to take that off my debt. So I'm going to do 50.56 minus 43.72, and that's what I owe. Pull the calculator over here. 50.56.38 minus 43.72. All right, and I get 50.12.66. All right. So that's the balance of my loan. So what I want you to notice, the interest they're charging me is going down, the amount applied to the debt's going up, and my balance is going down. All right, keep going. So now I take the balance for week 3, by week 3, multiply by the interest rate over the number of payments per year. times 0.58. Sorry, 1118 would be the interest down charged. So my payment is still $55. So I'm going to do 55 minus 1118 to get the amount applied to the debt. And I get 4382. So that's the money that comes off my loan. Let's see, 501266. Just do it this way. That minus 4382. I get 496884. Okay, we'll do the same thing again. All right, so we take the balance of the loan, 496884 times 0.058 over 26. There we go. And I get 1108 in interest now. 55 is the payment. The balance is 55 minus 1108. I gotta pay, I'm gonna pay 43.92 off this bi-weekly. Subtract it off the balance of the loan. So I'll just go up and pick it. I'll do this minus 43.92 and 4924, and I forgot the last two digits. 92. Okay, so you see how what's going on is the interest. Initially, I'm paying a lot of interest. Every month, the interest goes down as the balance of the loan goes down. Okay, so what gets paid off goes up every month. When you have a house, like I think we have a 30-year loan on our house these days, we're at a point where we paid a lot of it off, so we pay very little interest and more in principal. When you first start out, you're paying more interest than principal. The stuff that you're paying off, by the way, I should mention, this is called principal. All right, it's what you paid off, and this is your interest. Okay, so the principal is what you're paying off the loan. Okay. All right, so let's work another example. All right, so and this is just, we don't need the TDM solver for these. Gerald is going to buy a house for $258,000. His down payment will be 15% of the purchase price. How much is his down payment and how much will he borrow? So real simple, the down payment is just 15%. So I'll just take the price value, which is $258,000. And I'll multiply by 0.15, the percentage. So my down payment is 38.7. So I did 258,000 times 0.15, and I got 38.7. All right, so that's what he'll have to have at closing. Well, I have to have more than that because there's these dang closing costs and a whole bunch of other stuff. But that's his down payment. And then so the borrowing would be the house value minus the down payment. So it's 258,000 minus the down payment. So he's going to have to borrow 219,200. So he's going to borrow 258,000 minus his down payment. Now, realistically, there's other things like closing costs and things you have to pay just to give the bank the privilege of giving you a loan, which just amazes me. They're already getting a lot of money from you. All right, so 219,300. So that's what his mortgage will have to be for him. Okay. All right. So the thing to keep in mind when you take out a loan, you're not just paying the item off, you're paying the item plus interest, which can add up, especially with houses. We'll look at a house in a minute and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. Okay. So let's talk about cars though. He buys a car at a car dealership. He finds himself driving out with a car for which he paid $2,000 cash down, and will be making monthly payments of $300 for 5 years, which includes his interest. How much will the car end up costing him? Well, I know it's going to cost me $2,000, and I'm going to make payments of $300 every month for 12 months, so that's times 12, that's per year, and I'm doing this for 5 years, so I'm going to multiply that by 5. So that's how much money it's going to cost me. Okay, once per month and then for 5 years. So let's figure out what that is. 2,000 plus 300. And I end up getting $20,000. So, okay. So that car with the loan is going to cost him $20,000. Okay. I don't know the purchase price of the car, but so that's the question. So this answer, the price of the car is less because this is with interest, right? So this is car plus interest. That's what he's spending. So the price of the car is actually, the price above is more, right? Because it includes the interest. All right, I don't know the purchase price. Okay. We're going to talk about houses. Here's the fun thing about houses. They can cost you a lot of money, but you're owning a house outright too. So you have to keep that in mind when you work these problems because they don't really include that. But it says the best family are buying a home. Most loans are either 15 or 30 years. This home was priced at $156,000. They put 12% cash down payment. They will make monthly payments of $1,150 for 20 years to pay off the loan. How much will they pay in interest by the time they pay off the note? All right. So the way I'm going to figure this out, the house price was $156,000, right? Do I care that they put 12%? Yeah, I know. I need to know what they put down. So I'm going to do times 0.12. That'll figure out what their down payment is. All right, so it looks like their down payment is $18,720. Not only that, they're going to make monthly payments of $1,150 for 20 years monthly. So that means every month. So for 12 months out of the year, I'm going to pay $1,150 times 12. And I'm going to do that for 20 years. So that's how much money I'll spend on my loan over 20 years. So if I multiply that, 276,000 is what they'll pay over the life of their loan. All right. So the total amount they're paying for their house is going to be the down payment, which is $18,720 plus $276,000 on the loan. So this is what the house is ending up costing me. $720. So the house is going to cost me $294,720. Okay, a house whose original price was, no, wait a minute. How much will they pay in interest? So they're gonna, if I take the value of the original loan, oh yeah, let me figure out what that was. So the original loan would be for 156 minus the down payment. Okay, so let's figure out what the original loan was for. Minus 18,720. Okay, so the original loan was for 137, whoops, lost it, 137,280. This is the loan amount. And I paid, actually, I don't want to include the down payment, do I? How much will they pay in interest? by the time they pay off the note. All right, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna take this off. So the loan payments only are $276,000, don't include the down payment. So I would take this minus that, and that's the interest I pay. So my interest over 20 years is $276,000 minus $137,280. So I paid $138,720 in interest. Right, almost the purchase price of the house. All right, some things to keep in mind. They did it over 20 years. That's a long time. The house value, one thing they don't mention here is when you buy a house, you hold on to it for 20 years, the value of the house goes up, and that is money that's yours that you're keeping because it's your house. So it's not entirely as bad as it looks, but you still pay a lot of money in interest when you take out 30-year loans. All right, you really don't have a lot of choice though. All right, how am I doing? No, I'm doing pretty good with you guys. Okay, good. All right, example 7, let's talk about refinancing, because we've refinanced our home several times. We haven't lately because now we're at the point where we're paying more principal and interest, so it's not worth it. But the Smiths purchased a house for $150,000. They have been paying on a loan from Bank A for several years, $1,300 every month. Currently, they still owe $120,000, so that's what they have left. They are looking to refinancing with Bank B. That is now offering a lower interest rate. They have discovered that the new payments with Bank B will be $1,200 every month. Whether they stay with Bank A or go with Bank B, they still have 10 more years of payments. The cost of refinancing is $9,000 should they do it. All right, so let's take a look. This is a pretty practical problem. So we know the house costs $150,000, and no matter what, they have 10 years left, right? Now, they owe $120,000, so that's what they're going to finance. All right, and with Bank B, let's see, the payment will be $1,200 a month. Oh, this was $1,300, Bank A. All right, and what else do I know? They still have 10 more years, so they got 10 years to do it. And the cost of refinancing is going to cost them $9,000 if I switch. All right, so let's see if it's worthwhile. All right, so if I go with Bank A and I keep paying and keep paying, I'm going to pay $1,300 a month times 12 months times 10 years. So let's figure out that one. So over the 10 years, I would pay $156,000 I have left in payments. Okay, that's what I would have to pay. Now with Bank B, my payments go down to $1,200 a month. So times 12 for the year and times 10. So the money I spend in payments with the refinancing is $144,000. But then it's going to cost me $9,000 to refinance. So I better add $9,000. So if I do that, it's going to cost me $153,000. So it's going to cost me less to refinance, right? Not much. I mean, $3,000 as long as I keep the loan for 10 years. One of the things when you refinance, if I wasn't going to keep that loan for 10 years, it may not be worth the money because I just put $9,000 down. All right, so there's a lot of things to consider when you're considering that. But definitely Bank B is where you want to go. If you're going to keep it all 10 years, you're going to save yourself $3,000. All right, okay? All right, so let's take a look at, let's talk about equity. So equity in a home is the portion of the home you own outright. So what it is, it's the balance of your loan, it's the value of your home minus the balance of your loan, all right? And so if you pay on loans for a while, you're owning part of your house, that's called your equity. When my kids went to college, I have 4 kids, and they're pretty close together in age, so we had to borrow to put a couple of them through college because they were so close in age. And we ended up borrowing off the equity in our house because that was money that was ours, and it was cheaper to borrow off that than it was to go somewhere else. But so let's look at this idea. He purchased a home for $220,000. He's been paying on his loan for several years. At this point in time, the home has increased in value by 7% since he bought it. And he currently still owes $195,000 on the loan. How much equity does he have? All right. So the equity is going to be the current value of the house minus the amount you owe. So let's figure out the value of the house. So the value of the house, it's worth, he purchased it for $220,000. And it went up 7%. So you're going to add to it 0.07 times 220,000. And that would be how much the value of the home went up. Let's do 200,000. Multiply by 0.07. All right, the home went up $1,400. So I'm going to add that to 200,000. Oh, it's 220. Whoops. 220,000 times 0.07. All right, so the home went up 15,400. Add that to 220. The current value of the home is 235,400. 235,400. The amount he owns on his loan is 195,000. So if I subtract that, that's the equity. That's the amount of the house that I own outright. So if I just subtract 195,000, $40,400. So there's $40,400 that are mine in that loan escrow account. Okay. So one of the nice things about owning a home, I always think it's worth it to own a home because you're paying money, but you're buying something. You're getting something in return. If you're renting, you're just paying for somebody else's mortgage. All right. Is that okay? Are we okay with this? All right. So I don't know if I'll do all of these. We'll do a couple more. Let's take a look at this. So the point is, every payment you make, part of it goes toward interest, right? And the more you keep it, the less of the payment goes to interest and more of it goes to principal. See him borrow that much. The interest is 5.2% compounded monthly. His first payment during 1 month is $1,300. How much of that payment will be interest charges? Okay, so this is what we just did in that chart right now. Basically, you're going to take his payment, or no, yeah, I'm going to take his payment. I'm going to figure out the interest. I'm going to take the value that he borrowed times the interest rate, which is 0.052, and we're going to pay it monthly. Yeah, monthly. All right, so we're going to divide by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. So let's figure out what the interest is. Multiplied by the interest rate, divided by 12 for 12 months in a year, 1/12 of the interest. Oh, we get $710.67. So what I want you to notice is that's more than half of your first payment is going to interest. That's typical. And then as time goes on, less and less interest. And what's applied to his debt, so this is interest. So to debt, we're going to take the payment minus the interest he paid. All right, so I get $589.33. So this is what's applied to the debt. Okay, so your very first payment, most of your payment is going to be interest. All right, and then as time goes on, it'll be less and less, and more gets applied to the debt. All right, in fact, we're going to see that. It says after a few years, Sam's debt balance is now down to $140,000. So I want to know the same question, how much to interest and how much to the debt? So now I'm going to take his balance times the interest rate is 0.052 over 12. Let's see what the interest is now. Uh, 606.67. Okay, so you can see it's getting less and less the more time goes on. And so this would be as interest. And the debt, I would take the balance. No, I would take the payment minus the interest to get what it's going to the debt. All right, so I end up getting 693.33. It's applied to debt. Okay. So the longer I hold the loan, the less interest I pay, the more principal. Okay. We'll do one more and then that'll be it. So now we're down to 80,000. So we're down to a lot less. So basically, if I take his interest, it's still 0.052 over 12. This is where we got a significant portion paid off. And now we're only paying $346.67 each month to interest. This would be his interest. And so if I take the payment minus the interest, that's what's getting applied to the debt. So at that point, 953.33 is being applied to the debt. Okay, to debt, to debt. All right. So that's the idea behind compound interest. Okay. We'll talk about TBM solver on Thursday. Or is she doing like, I'm going to ask you with TBM, is she doing like, if it comes into your pocket, it's positive, it comes out of your pocket, it's negative, or is she doing from the banker? Like it goes into the bank, it's positive, out of the bank's negative.
I don't think we've gotten that far yet.
Yeah, not that far yet. Most people these days are doing it from consumer, although realistically it's from the banker because the banker's the business, but all right, we're going to do it from consumer. All right, so that's it. So like I said, you should have the ability to do 5-1, 5-2 homework now. 10-2's up there and 5-3 will cover Thursday. Okay. And we done.
Is there any way we could look at that week 2 thing on my?
Yeah. Let me get out of the meeting first.
Yeah.
All right.
You want me to pull it up or do you want?
I can. Let me pull it up.
Okay.
Let me see if I can figure it out. There we go. And this.